So I might talk myself through this video a little bit because I've been thinking while I was working out. And a question kind of occurred to me. Why is it that when people say they're feeling confident, or when they say that they feel totally okay with who and what they are, they feel like they have to kind of thrust it in people's faces to kind of prove that they know who they are or that they're confident with who they are? And then I was trying to figure out, how do I talk about that? Because it's a phenomenon to me that I just don't understand, because certainly I would imagine that just because you feel confident about yourself, or if you really felt confident about yourself, or you really were pleased with who you were, that you wouldn't feel the need to force it down anybody's throat. And that's kind of the problem that I've been having with a lot of these movements. So I guess to a degree, this is sort of like my thoughts continued. I can't help but question the way that people are behaving. I can't help but think about how people are wording things, so to speak. How the idea of, I'm confident as a fat woman, so I'm going to wear a bikini, but then I'm going to get mad if somebody says something about me wearing that bikini. But technically, you're supposed to be confident. So you're not supposed to be wearing that for somebody else. You're supposed to be wearing that for yourself. Therefore, it shouldn't be a problem if someone says anything. I technically don't like bikinis at all on fit, thin women or fat women. I don't like them. I can't imagine anybody really liking wearing them. That's personal opinion. But the idea that you should change someone's thoughts when it's their thoughts, when it's their experience, when it's their preference, it's kind of amazing me right now, because I don't understand it. And I feel like the way that these movements are going, what you're showing the world more is your insecurities versus your actual securities. Because the thing is, I can't just allow people to think X. So I'm going to force them to think what I want them to think, and I want them to ignore the facts, so to speak. And that's kind of crazy to me. I mean, how do you do that? I guess that's kind of my question, and that's kind of the thing that right now has kind of been on my mind as I've been trying to figure it out. It's like, why? And of course I'm trying to figure it out because I'm one of those, I like to tinker with things. I really like to tinker. I like to take a problem and I like to look at it from all angles. And this is one of those that I'm definitely amazed by, because it's a piece that doesn't make sense. I've always been big, except for the time when I was a toddler, but I've always been big. I've always acknowledged the fact that I was big. I've always, acknowledged the research, so to speak. And yes, I've gone through phases where I've been okay with it and not okay with it, because at the end of the day, nobody lives in my body but me. But I've never tried to force people to see me as being something different. I've never tried to force people to change their thoughts about, how being fat could eventually be a problem. I've always happened to be healthy, but as I've gotten older, I've also had to acknowledge that the older that I get, the more weight that I carry, it is a problem. And so I just don't know, like, how do you think that you can change people's minds when the facts say something different? And that's really kind of where I am with this. How do you think that you can change people's minds on the facts? Like, that shouldn't be plausible. It shouldn't be possible. And because I'm working through this problem, I know that I really feel like this is not a great video, because I'm struggling so much with this problem of why. And I tell myself all the time, you don't even really need to know the why, but I can't help it. I can't help but try to figure it out, because why is something that's extremely important to know and understand, as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm doing this partly, to express the confusion that I'm experiencing. And I mean, again, part of this being life as I know it is this is life as I know it is. I find these movements very confusing. I find the concept of thrusting what you like in people's faces to prove to them that you don't care about what they think very confusing, because by its very logic, you obviously do care. That's why you're thrusting it in their face. That's why you're trying to normalize it. That's why you're trying to make them get on board with the way that you think, because you obviously do have a problem with people disagreeing with you. You obviously do feel that it's a problem that people don't find what you're thinking good, or they're not finding it brilliant, or they're not abiding by whatever it is in your mind that's making you think that. And I would like to see it stop, because to me, I look at it as, if you like being big, if you want to be big, then by all means, just do it. It's you can do what you want to do. I don't think anybody really cares, and those that do care, they care about your health, because of course they care about your health. They love you. The rest of us don't really care. But when you make it everybody else's problem, by thrusting it in their face, by demanding that they change their thoughts, that they change their experiences, that they change, the research and science and everything to fit the agenda that you want to push, now we're getting into a problem, because now you're essentially forcing people to feel like they have to say something about it. And then, of course, what they're going to say is not, it's not going to make you happy. And of course, it's going to make you upset, because they're going by the standard. They're going by what is the norm. They're going by the research, what the research says. They're going by all these things that centuries have told us, it's supposed to be. It should not be a problem if you really feel happy and confident with who and what you are. And at the end of the day, I guess that's really what it boils down to. It should not be a problem if you really were happy with who and what you are. You should be able to acknowledge it if you actually were okay with who you were. You know, it should just be easy to just say, yes, I understand the research, but I don't care. Or just, be who you are. Like, really be who you are. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really feel like there's much that I can find that I can say about this subject, because let's be honest, like, overall, it's a problem that I'm wrestling with, but overall, it's also a problem that I don't know that I can necessarily say I care over much about, because why would I care over much about it? It's, other people struggling with who they are, which I do understand, because everybody goes through struggling. Oh, the dog. But everybody struggles with who they are. Everybody has some form of insecurity. So the insecurity part isn't unusual, but it's forcing everybody to care about our insecurities when they shouldn't have to care about our insecurities. We should be the ones who care the most about our insecurities, and we should be the ones who are working our way through them. And if you find that you can't work your way through your insecurities, then by all means get a therapist to help you walk through and understand your insecurities. It's really, like, I guess to me, it's really that simple. You're just who you are when you actually don't care about what people think. When you actually do care about what people think, you kind of thrust who you are in their faces, and then you demand that they not acknowledge the fact that you're thrusting who you are in their face, and you're demanding that they see that as normal. That's a very kid thing. That's what children do. Most of us, who are doing this, we're supposed to be adults. We're supposed to be the adults. And I find that a problem, that a lot of adults are not behaving like adults, that a lot of adults are behaving like children, are making demands like children, and are, really sort of like willing to burn the world down just so they can have things be their way. And that's not right. That's not a good thing. I'm not advocating conformity, because let's be honest, I'm someone who is a nonconformist myself. I don't really believe in, traditional conventions, so to speak. I do, but I don't. There are certain things. And I'll explain that in another video about what I mean by conventions. I believe in traditional family, of course. I believe in, conservative, like social conservative norms. I do believe in that. I will say that outright. But, there are things that I do believe that we don't have to be so conforming on, and that's, more of the construct of, I'll talk about that later. I don't want to talk about that now, because that's something that requires notes. That is something that requires a whole lot more work, and that's not what this video is about. But I'll close with this. I want us to start thinking about some of these things. I would really love for us to understand what it is that we're actually trying to say, or what we're actually trying to do. And I really would like to see people be more honest about it, because I think that is the thing that is blowing my mind the most, and is probably upsetting me the most, because I don't believe that people are being honest in their intentions. And I don't like when people are being dishonest. I don't like when agendas are not put out front first. I believe that whatever you believe, you should just be able to say that that's what you believe, and you should be able to own it, because that is what you believe, that is what you're willing to fight for. And so you should understand, and you should be okay with all aspects of what it is that you are defending. And you should be able to just say what it is that you're trying to do and stop lying to society about what it is that you're trying to do. That's really it. And so I guess that's it for this episode, and I will see you in the next one.